Ready, 39.
Number 1.
39.
1.
38.
37.
36.
35.
34.
33.
32.
31.
30.
29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22.
21.
20.
19.
18. 17. 16.
15.
14.
13.
12.
11.
10.
9. 8.
7. 6. 5.
4.
3.
2.
1. It's time for mouthwash. Giddy up.
Hi, and welcome to the Mouthwash Talk Show, a minty, fresh take on politics. And yeah, my voice is a little bit, hey, Lucy, how'd you get on here? You're not supposed to be on here yet. Wait your turn. I forgot to remove her. That's if I had somebody running this board, it wouldn't have been messed up like that. Where was I? Oh, my voice. Yeah, I went to the race and I was yelling at Pato O'Ward to calm down there at the end because I had him in the pool. All he had to do was hang on for a couple more laps. He would have won. I'm yelling at him, and my voice is gone. But I'm here. So that just means I won't talk so much tonight. I'll let the panel carry the load here. And we got Curtis Hill on tonight. We're going to talk about why people hate each other, what it's like to be black and conservative, and some other different things. And I'm waiting to see if Tiffany's going to be back there. I'm not seeing her backstage, but we're going to get to that. But I want to give you an update. I want to give you an update on our show last week about permits. So I was able to go up to see Ray at his house and actually put my eyes on the deck, and he had the Gordon Pipers and a Canadian piping group up there. And Ray we had a little fun. So let me put up this picture here and I'll sort of explain it. So, I'm calling this death by permit. So, it's sort of self-explanatory here on this. And then, of course, when, sometimes when people die, you have pipers. So let's see what happens here. Let's go. And there we go. We have R.I.P. Death by permit. That was death by permit. And wow, those pipers, you could hear that all the way across the Geist Reservoir. And that was the deck in question, the Peck deck, we called it. And nice group of people there listening to the music that night. So let's get to our guest, Curtis Hill. We're going to have Curtis Hill, former Attorney General. He's been on the show a couple times. He's brave, he's fearless, and he's here. But first, I want to play. We got a big thing going this week. Big thing going this Saturday. It's at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. It's noon to 2 p.m. on the south lawn of the state capitol building. Well, hey, I'll just play this little promo here. And on the other side, we'll have Curtis Hill. So yeah, there we go. We have that. We have that happening this weekend. What are you doing this weekend, Curtis?
Well, I'll be working at home. I've still got some yard work that I'm behind on severely. I just was able to get a few flowers planted this afternoon, so I still got the yard work for the summer.
It's just now springtime up there in northern Indiana. I know that for sure. I did a wedding up in Shipshewana, and it was about 10 degrees colder than it was in India. I was like, wow, this is a little breezy up there.
Come up today. Today got nice and toasty, so the warm weather is upon us.
Okay, good. You get the flowers planted. So, Curtis, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well.
Cool.
I'm getting plenty of exercise, moving around a lot. I feel really good.
Good. You're going to need some energy, I think. Maybe I was reading a little thing you sent me about an exploration about running for something. I don't know what all that's about, but I'm sure that we'll find out soon enough on that. So let's see. We're going to talk about, you saw the little thing on the thing about, it seems like people are exceedingly hating each other. It's like, it seems like it's getting worse, doesn't it? There's a lot of friction. And then also, it's in the recent news, we've had what it's like to be Black and conservative. So I think we're going to talk about that a little bit, but I'm going to bring the panel on. But first, let's do Mark Small Talk. And I think you'll find this a little interesting. I think he tries to say that one group isn't as violent as another group, but I'll let him explain it. So let's listen to this real quick, and then we'll bring the panel on, and we'll get right to it.
Hi, Mark Small. This is Small Talk. The topic this evening is hatred. And I think people are looking at it rather oddly, at least in some parts of our society. If I look at people's attitudes, people are using bad language with each other. Oh, that's terrible. People are critical of others, especially if others are seeking political office. Oh, they use really heightened language. That's bad. But there's another stat some people choose to ignore, and that's the number of people who are dead. If I look, the people who are picking up rifles and shooting people, the people that are expressing hatred in that way, and that's a real, genuine, old-fashioned way of doing it, they're on the far right. I'm trying to think of the last time a left-wing person picked up a gun and did a mass shooting. If it's out there, I'm sure that I'll find the stats someplace, but I haven't seen them yet. And the made-up stats, they're pretty easy to see as being lies. In the meantime, you think about Buffalo. You think about the parade in Wisconsin, which won. You think about different places where people open up and shoot. They're either expressing crypto-fascist, proto-Nazi views beforehand, online in their little journals, or to friends and relatives, or they're lonely. They're just doing it because they're kind of bent out of shape. But I don't think that you're going to find a great number of them that are on the left, because expression of one's belief that another person is wrong is not an expression of hatred. But denying people the right to vote, the right to speak, that can be motivated by hatred. Mark Small, Small Talk. Peace, love, happiness. Take care.
Mark was a little less animated as usual, but as I said, he was sort of trying to put blame on certain people about the different hate and different things. I see Jordan smiling up there, and I'm sure Curtis is going to have some comments about that. And Lucy even. Hey, Tiffany, there you are. I didn't see you backstage there and then popped in there. So let's bring our man of the hour out here. Let's bring Curtis out. Curtis, how you doing tonight? I mean, it's sort of a warm night, and I'm looking out my window here, and it's still daylight out almost, and it's 9 o'clock, so it doesn't feel like it's that late.
No, it's a great evening. It's a great night to sit out on the lawn. When I get done with the show, I'll probably go out on the lawn and have a little glass of water and kind of hang out for a while.
Yeah, that's it's it does sort of throw your clock off a little bit. In the wintertime, it gets dark at 5 p.m. and now it's 9 p.m. It's like, I know it's getting different. So what do you think about our friend Mark Small's comments about that, about it seems like the right to vote, or maybe one of the things that stuck out to me was the censorship on Facebook and Twitter of certain conservative people. Since I think we're going to say conservative tonight, probably a few times.
Well, it seemed to me as though he was suggesting that hate and actions of hate have a more predominant perspective or aspect on the right side as opposed to the left. I don't know where that's coming from. Certainly, all acts of violence certainly has some form of perhaps hatred to it. So I think oftentimes people try to overanalyze violence and issues of hate. From my perspective, I think we get it wrong in this country when we start talking about so-called hate crimes as a separate thing, because we start to get into legislating thought, and that gets into free speech. And anybody who believes in free speech certainly needs to understand that a part of free speech is hate speech. Now, having said that, free speech includes hate speech doesn't mean that hate speech is desirable or should be encouraged. It certainly shouldn't. And certainly acting on hate is certainly wrong to do. But in this country, it was founded on the concept that one had the opportunity to freely think and speak as they choose. So I think we sometimes get confused with the finger pointing in terms of who hates who. What I might be doing might be righteous, but what you're doing is hate. That's the kind of in the eyes of the beholder, and we should be very careful about pointing fingers, accusing someone else of hate, when sometimes those of us who are accusing others of hate don't recognize the hate that we're putting out there ourselves.
Yeah, it is interesting that it's just very interesting how we've escalated things up to being to this level of things, of the whataboutism, and they hate more than this or more hate than that. So I'm going to whoever can unmute and talk fastest on this panel gets to ask your first question.
I'm always the one
Lucy,
that's going to be.
won, and she promised to be nice, Curtis. So I'm going to say,
You know what? I've got to say, after listening to Mark Small, it makes Curtis look like a shining example of a human being. And I'm not trying to do that as a backhanded compliment. I'm so disappointed in Mark. I consider him my friend. But when you ignore the fact that we just had a transgender leftist whose manifesto they will not even release because it's obviously so damning, go kill little children, and he's going to come off with that crap, about, conservatives are, hateful, and we're, using bad words at you, and we're shooting you. No, that is just unacceptable. So anyway, we can get to the cannabis stuff later, but for now, let's just all hate on Mark. 2-minute hate, everybody. It's George Orwell time.
2-minute hate. Hey, we may have to smoke some weed and chill out a little bit, but just because they have the right to say something doesn't mean it's the right. It's smart. So I've had my recent run-in with somebody who's really doesn't like me, and said a bunch of bad things about me, called me a snowflake. I mean, really? I mean, that I laughed at that one, but yeah.
Anybody that thinks you're a snowflake should go work with you one day. I mean, you do like some seriously hard work every single day.
Well, I melt every day 2 or 3 times, and I'm reinvented like the Phoenix. But Tiffany, let's talk about a little bit of you've been experienced a little bit of that with the library board. Curtis, did you know Tiffany was on the Fishers Hamilton County Library Board, and she's having a great time.
Oh, Tiffany is a star. I'm very impressed with Tiffany.
Thank you, sir. Well, the library board, I enjoy being on it, but I've had some very recent run-ins, and I'm all for free speech. I was in the military, support and defend the Constitution. Everybody has a right to talk, and hate speech is free speech. I'm with you on that. But I think that there's a shift that people make away from their hate speech, and they get into hate tactics. And that's where, that's what really gets my my interest. And that's where I think things get very dangerous. You can say whatever you want to say, but there's a shift where people start doing things. They start weaponizing things against people. And that to me is, that's just another manifestation of the hate. People will, ask questions, and then they'll demand that you answer them, or you'll block them on social media, and then they'll get angry. I'm like, you can say whatever you want to say. I don't have to respond to it. I don't have to keep you in my circle. It's like, you can say whatever you want, but once you want something from me and you're unkind and discourteous, why would I want to interact with you? I think that's what they don't understand.
The freedom to think how you want to think is certainly grounded in the Constitution, but there is a line, and I think you touched on it perfectly. Acting out of hate or acting in a violent manner is not acceptable. So there are standards in which we operate, and the problem with hate. When I say that hate is a part of free speech, let's be very, very clear. That doesn't mean that we should be encouraging hate. That doesn't mean that we should be encouraging foul language or uncivil discourse. We absolutely want to encourage people to be able to speak freely and openly and with kindness and love when appropriate, and certainly act on those occasions. So the idea of defending one's ability to think how they want to think does not fall into the category of defending someone who takes action in a hurtful or violent or otherwise dangerous manner.
Yeah, and that's one good thing. Now, you talked about language, and in our culture, and Curtis, we're about the same age. You may be a minute or two older than me. That's it. But you're younger. I don't know. We're about the same age, so don't even play it. Black don't crack and all that. Don't even say it. I'm an old white dude. So
it might crease you.
Come on. So, but what I'm talking about is, it seems like, and Jordan, you're a millennial, so this question is going to be directed to you. And this is, I am not accusing you of any. I don't think I've heard you say a foul word ever. I don't think I have. But
I do.
But no, I haven't heard you. Maybe around old white dudes, you don't say foul words. But
Jordan has a robust vocabulary.
Okay, he does.
Yes,
but
refined words.
My point being, it seems like some that kind of language seems to be more being normalized in our society, and I don't know. I mean, I'm a construction worker. I could put together a lot of words that would make a nun blush, but I don't do that in public. We've always had sort of decorum that we don't do that around ladies. We don't do that in the public. But it seems like now the ladies in public have no troubles dropping a little F-bomb every once in a while. And so what do you think about that? I'm gonna give Jordan's opinion. Then Curtis, I want you to follow up.
So my opinion about it is, opposite of hate is love. Love is derivative of passion. Hate and love share the same thing. It's passion. When people become very passionate about something and they're in an echo chamber and they feel desperate, what happens to a dog when you back it into a corner? Not comparing them to that. It gets this instinct that has been pushed around enough, and every dog has their day. The underdog will have their day. It's that action that we need to be more concerned about. It's an emotional imbalance to where they drop their level of decorum, a level of social understanding that if I choose not to engage in you, did you have a trauma in a childhood that causes you to react this way, to feel that you need to get your expression of wet across this way? So for me as a millennial, yeah, we experience it. I think more people in my age group, we're not afraid to call it as it is, as some old Catholic call it, we're straight off the whip with it. I mean, it's a level of decorum. And when you see a person wants to escalate, you need to have tactics to de-escalate the situation. Is this person worth gnashing my teeth? And as a Christian, that's one of the biggest things I do keep holy, is don't gnash your teeth. There's no point to gnash teeth about anything, but rather, if a mute person can communicate with you and find ways to communicate, so too can we with our emotion. It's a language, love language. And right now, America is experiencing a toxic love language with itself. It does not love itself or the image it worked hard to bear.
Was there a question, Lucy? I mean, Jordan.
My question to you, Curtis, is obviously you have been in this arena a long time. You have, from your college years to your high school years, all the way to now, as a young man, for me, it's very important that I study your method of meditation on how to confront this. You had your issues out there, and yet you held strong to your character. You didn't let the hate break you. So what motivated you? What was your mantra to keep you cool, calm, and collected and choosing not to gnash your teeth?
Well, truth. One of the things that we have to focus on as Americans, and it's sort of cliche-ish in the Superman type of way, truth, justice, and the American way. And oftentimes we don't get the truth. Oftentimes we don't get justice, and we see the result. From my perspective, it's important to have serious faith in God, faith in the Constitution, faith in our institutions. One of the concerns that I've seen over the last several years now is the loss of confidence that we all have and the trust in our institutions, whether it's the Department of Justice, whether it's the education system. We're not getting what we bargained for, and so I think our quest for truth, what is true, what is just, that has to provide us balance in our lives, to deal with the hatred, to deal with the acrimony. I have always, I guess, looked at finger pointing and hatred as someone else's problem. You don't want to be defined by how someone feels about you. In my experience, and this may be getting ahead of the topic a little bit, but being a Black conservative has within itself presented certain obstacles, and I will tell you, obstacles that I have chosen not to bring me back or bring me down. It's interesting because you can be a white conservative and you can be considered bold. If you're a Black conservative and you have a viewpoint that's a little different than the main line, Blacks will sometimes look at you askance, and you get the Uncle Tom reference. But interestingly enough, whites will also jump in, and there's a concept that we all remember from the old days, uppity,
Yes.
not knowing your place. And there have been times when someone has implied that I didn't know my place, and I have often ignored that because I damn well know my place. And no one else can tell me what my place is. So one has to have an extraordinary amount of confidence, of an ability to let it roll off your back, choose your battles, choose your fights, and honor the truth and honor justice, even when injustice is all around.
Yeah, and I would say that, hold on one second. I just want to throw this in there about, I remember the Clarence Thomas, when Anita Hill was, they were grilling him, and we just had other justice they just brought in that had, they went back 30 years in his life and all that stuff. He liked to drink beer or something like that. It's like, it just seems like if you're a conservative, white or Black, it seems like it's just a different standard. And maybe it should be. Maybe conservatives are held higher to a standard, but it's just one of those things.
Let me speak to that issue, because I think what happens is conservatives are typically associated with faith, and the left often is not. I don't like to generalize, because there are plenty of people on the left who are faith based, but typically faith is something that the conservatives are labeled with, the left not so much. And so what happens is, if you pronounce yourself a man of faith or a woman of faith, then the left looks for ways to knock you off your perch, as if you are imperfect. Well, I got news for you, left. I am imperfect. So are you. We all are. That's one of the most fundamental concepts of Christianity, is recognizing that we all fall short. And my righteousness is only a product of the blood of Jesus. I have no self-righteousness. I am not self-righteous. I'm not being saved based on something that I've done. My Savior has provided for me, and I'm grateful for that. My righteousness comes from Jesus Christ. So that's what the left, who don't understand Christianity, don't get. They think that there's a hypocrisy because maybe John has a beer. He's a professed Christians don't drink beer.
So there's good thing they didn't see me at the race.
Yeah, well, there's this judgment basis that gets a little crazy, and that fuels some of this lack of civility.
Yep. And one of the things that first time I heard you speak, for the very first time I heard you speak, Curtis, the first thing you said, raise your hand if you had ever done anything stupid in your life. And not, I thought that was great. It was because
everybody has.
Yeah, and nobody raised their hand. So I was like, wow, that's a very, it's a good way to start out with if you're going to do a talk. And I was very impressed with that, the way you handled that. And that was, after you were still AG, I believe, at that point. So there were some things going on there. So Jordan, you had a thought, and then I want to get Lucy back in the mix here.
No, my thought is, it's like culture and tradition. It's what's being passed down. There was something about the civil rights movement that was on the precipice of something really great. And somewhere along the generations, we decided to offer that as payment for the things we take for granted and comfortability now. I mean, Andy Warhol, I believe, was the one who said everyone in the future will be famous for an hour. And right now, are we not living in that age? 15 minutes. Yeah, I think it was 15 minutes. But are we not now living in that age? I mean, there's an attention deficit that they're not feeling like they're getting love. Hate is an overextension of passion that is unbridled. And when it's uncapped, just like a gas main, when you add a catalyst to it, it will go off. It's about disarming it and being proactive to it.
Well, it's unearned attention. When you look at what goes on social media, you have anybody can get on there and become somebody anonymously, which is ridiculous. So you have something to say, but you don't put your name on it, and you're somehow a part of the conversation. But that's the world that we live in. Is everybody wants to be somebody, but they're not willing to pay the price. They're wanting to be somebody for free, not put their work on it. And the internet allows people to do that. And it's a cheap way to get tricks. But that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, tricks are for kids.
Yeah,
So.
I love that you call it.
Well, it's not tricking if you got
it. I love that unearned attention. That's people inserting themselves in conversations where they don't live, they don't vote, they don't have a horse in the race. They're just shooting arrows at people just because, and they want very much to be part of it. But it's like you've not done anything. You literally have just shown up. You've heard 2 sound bites, and you're running with it. So you're misinformed, you're misaligned, and you're just making a mess. So I just think that's really interesting. And Curtis, going back to your point about the many terms that people use for brown conservatives, one of them that you missed is radical. So as a brown woman, if I sit on a board or a committee and I want to talk about things that are inappropriate for children, or ideas and concepts that don't promote excellence in education, all of a sudden I'm a radical. I'm a radical because I want children to be children, and I don't want them to experience things that are going to taint their childhood. And I want them to have the ability to learn. And Curtis, I loved what you said about confidence. I think critical race theory, it has its place. I took a lot of African American studies classes when I was in college, but I think at the high school level, students need to be armed with confidence, knowing that they belong in any room that they want to be in, if that's where they want to be. The world's not going to slow down because you're black, brown, purple, trans, anything. You need to know that you are so confident in who you are are skilled, you're well thought, you're well prepared, you're educated, and any room you want to be in, you belong in. That's what they need to be teaching in high schools.
When you talk about being a radical woman, or being referred to as a radical woman, what they're also thinking about you, Tiffany, is that you're an angry black woman. And they're thinking these things, and again, I don't typically talk about my observations, but I've seen these in people throughout my entire life. And the fact that I don't bring it up or discuss it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or that I'm not aware of it. But it can be intimidating and a problem for those who don't have the confidence to overlook it or to get past it. And it can be very, very troubling for our youngsters who may not have grown up with the presence of mind to be strong enough to push back on that. And so what happens is a lot of our kids fall by the wayside because they don't have the tools to deal with this type of attitude. And on the CRT thing, I try to caution people about getting so worked up on critical race theory, because my theory is this: if we teach children how to critically think, it doesn't really matter what indoctrination tools are out there to try to adjust that thinking. So teaching children how to think critically for themselves, to make choices for themselves, to discern right from wrong, that's the critical aspect of teaching that I'm interested in most.
Yeah, I was thinking that about SEL, and I had to teach that to fourth graders. It's like, just tell them to love your neighbor like yourself. We're done with the whole thing. It's like they didn't understand what I was teaching, and to me, it was just like, just be nice. We're done with that. Maybe we should call it the NICE program.
It's pretty simple. Pretty
It
simple.
is real simple, but it's which is why we're doing a little bit of show about this hate tonight. I guess, what do we do to get people to smile more? I mean, is it just because we're all overworked, overstressed, and all that stuff? Or
one of the things that's important to do anytime you're dealing with people who are different and wanting to engage with people that are different, you have to begin by being able to empathize with the other person. And the way to empathize is first by listening to what that person has on their mind. If I engage in a conversation with someone who I have an opposing point of view, and all I do is want to talk, and I want to put my point forward, what I'm not doing is allowing the other person to have an opportunity to speak. And now we're in a battle of two people just trying to talk over each other, not wanting to yield at all. So I make a point of listening first, of inquiring about the other, what's on your mind, and trying to understand and take some time to comprehend where that person's coming from, and even take a point of conceding. If there's points that I can concede right off the bat and lose nothing from my perspective, then why not? And what that does is it shows that I'm willing to meet that person halfway, to start a dialogue. Now, if that other person chooses not to engage, well, so be it. I've lost nothing. But in my experience, that is a great way to disarm an antagonistic individual by expressing opportunity to empathize with that person. And then once you've empathized and you've developed a bit of a relationship, it's not overnight, but a bit of a relationship, you can develop some trust that this person's not out to knock you out or move past you. And at that point, when you have empathy, you develop trust. Now you can start talking about data. You can start talking about facts and statistics to support something, because you've now developed a trusting relationship with someone who's willing to listen and willing to engage in a proper discourse.
And I would say, Curtis, I'm firsthand witness to that. We had 12 young Black people come to our art center, and you were AG at the time, and you came down and you spent 2 hours with those folks. And I'll tell you what, about 3 or 4 of them really did not agree with you at all. Yet you had time to come down there, and you've actually served homeless with me because you want to see what that is like. And to me, 80% of why I would vote for somebody is if I can get a hold of them. And the rest of the 20 is, are they out with the people doing what the people need to have done? Mm-hmm. And I see a lot of these guys come down at Thanksgiving and scoop out a couple mashed potatoes and get his picture and never see him again. And you are not that guy. And I've always appreciated that. And whenever I call you, you pick up the phone. I mean, I know that you can't do that with everybody with the capacity that you have and so many people, but that to me is very important. And I want to say thanks for that. And two, that I'm a witness of what you just said. So I like a guy that can back up his words with action. Lucy, you've been quiet too long.
That's only because I'm plotting and scheming against all you folks. So I was glad to hear, Curtis, I was very glad to hear you express your belief in God. And I'm just curious if you believe in the whole Bible or if there are parts that you would leave out, like the Mormons do, for example.
No, I believe that the Bible is the inspired word of God. I don't get hung up in inconsistencies or minute detail. I believe I have a biblical worldview. Having said that, I will tell you that we are not a theocracy.
Good.
We are a republic, and so therefore, the Bible informs my positions, but it does not control my positions because of my oath to the Constitution. So it's very important that we have those levels of distinction, particularly those of us who are on the right, because we get labeled as Bible thumpers. I believe in my Bible. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ as my Savior. But I also believe in the Constitution and our form of government that allows individuals to be free. And one of those freedoms is freedom of religion. So this is not a nation that is a solely Christian nation. This is a nation that is free to practice, where individuals are free to practice the religion of their choice or no religion at all. And that requires us to be mindful and place a premium on how we exist with our brothers and sisters throughout the land.
I am super glad to hear you say that on a number of levels. First of all, because one of my favorite verses in the Bible is Genesis 1:29, where God said, "Behold, I've given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree." And it just so happens, now I'd like to preface this by saying I'm an extremely conservative person. I've given birth to 10 children. All of them have been homeschooled at some point. I don't smoke or drink anything at all, but I recognize that this is good medicine behind me, and I recognize that it was given to us by God. We talk about hate. I'm wearing like One Love, right here on my chest over my heart. I got Bob Marley here. I just want to express to you, although I think that you are an impressive human being, I certainly like you as a person. I have been so disappointed with you politically over the years, specifically because of your stance on marijuana.
What is my stance on marijuana first, Lucy? Tell me that.
First of all, your stance is one of prosecution. So you believe in prosecuting people and putting humans in cages who use a plant. Am I wrong on that? Have you not prosecuted people?
You're wrong. I've prosecuted thousands of people. I've prosecuted people for breaking the law, committing crimes. One of the biggest
That's
myths.
a very stormtrooper thing to say.
No.
What is your personal view on cannabis? Do people
Lucy.
have the right to decide what they put into their body or not? Yes or no? Real simple, yes or no, politician. Do people have the right to decide what goes into their body, what they eat?
Well, we have a process with our Food and Drug Administration, whether you like it or not.
The FDA has killed hundreds of thousands of people. Yes. Throughout the years. I mean, literally millions of people. They approved Vioxx. It killed 150,000 people. There was $1 billion lawsuit. You're a lawyer. You can look it up. I want to know from you, because there's rumors, abounding that you have other political aspirations that you may not have announced yet. And I want to know, as a citizen of Indiana, are you going to continue to put Black men in jail for consuming a plant because they're trying to get rid of hate out of their life and they just want to be happy? Black men are disproportionately.
Yeah, you twisted.
You want to keep talking? You want to give me a shot?
Well, Lucy, let's go ahead and reshuffle the cards. I think that hand's not a good hand. Let's reshuffle.
It was going to get there, so let's go. What do you say, Curtis?
I don't accept the premise. I don't take the position that I put Black men in jail for smoking weed. One of the biggest myths that exists out there, and I got this from a legislator several years ago. He said, "Curtis, we have to quit locking people up for 20 years for smoking one marijuana cigarette." And I had to explain to him that we've never locked up somebody for smoking one marijuana cigarette for 20 years. We don't lock people up for smoking. We lock people up. If we lock people up, it's for possession or intent to deliver. But possession of marijuana is a misdemeanor offense. It ordinarily doesn't require jail time. Oftentimes, people end up going to jail because it's a condition of probation. And as a result of a probation violation, someone can get a serious amount of time because they violated the probation. But let's back up a little bit about marijuana. You said that my position is to lock people up for marijuana.
Have you not prosecuted people for possession of marijuana?
I have prosecuted people for violation of Indiana code, including possession of marijuana. The vast majority.
You're making my case for me.
The vast majority of which did not go to jail. The vast majority of which received probation.
Which affects their ability to feed their family and to be employable and to be happy and not have hate.
That's a matter of the legislature's position on marijuana.
There is no worse stormtrooper than the one who enforces the law because it's the law. Why do you continue to hurt your fellow man? Why do you have a position that it's okay to interfere with somebody's life because they're following Genesis 1:29? You're a believer. I know you're going to say it's because you don't want to have a theocracy, but our Constitution was written on hemp paper. Our founding fathers smoked marijuana and they grew it. And in fact, if you go back to the 1940s and the late 30s, you can watch a whole film called Hemp for Victory, where our farmers were given the task to actually grow this wonderful plant for the war effort. And yet I'm going to put you in here with Kamala Harris because, she's Jamaican.
Oh,
So
that's
she's
great.
smoked and she kept Black men in jail to keep them as slaves, as literal labor slaves for the California penal system, because it was convenient to her to do so because all those
Kamala
little
Harris
things.
was the DA in San Francisco. I don't think she locked up anybody.
Yeah, actually she did.
So let me jump in
And
here
she
real
she
quick.
bragged about it. She bragged about people that were supposed to be let out, and she kept them in because they were labor. Now, surely you are aware of the prison labor system and how we exploit prisoners for free labor. Surely you're aware of the judge in Pennsylvania who putting children in jail because he was paid for
Are you
it.
taking the position that people who've been arrested for possession of marijuana have gone to jail for 20 years?
No, I'm saying that anybody who is harassed in any way, shape, or form for carrying around a plant, that it is morally wrong to do so. You're not prosecuting me for broccoli, but broccoli has sulforaphane, and broccoli actually helps you block cancer, especially if you do the broccoli sprouts. They're like 25,000
So
times.
one of the biggest
more
problems
sulforaphane.
that we have in our country right now is we have a bunch of rogue DAs that take it upon themselves to determine what laws they won't pursue.
Oh, you mean they like actually use their discretion, or maybe they
No.
think that there's
We're not
something
talking about
morally wrong
discretion.
with the
We're not
laws?
talking about discretion. Prosecutorial discretion, which I fully support, is based upon each individual case to determine what's the appropriate avenue to take in a particular case. I'm talking about prosecutors who across the board have determined whole classifications of code that they're going to disregard and nullify, which is not the position of a prosecuting attorney. The law is very clear on particular offenses. So yes, you can use your discretion in an individual case, but a prosecutor does not have the discretion to dismiss at whole an entire classification of offense because they happen to agree or disagree with that offense.
I'm going to give you an example where this is happening. That's going to speak to your side, and then I'm going to use it as a contrast to my side. In San Francisco right now, you can steal up to $1,000 or $1,500 worth of stuff, and they have blanket wholesale decided that you will not be prosecuted for shoplifting. So I think that's a great example of ignoring a law. And that's actually to the detriment of society. You have caused a loss to another person when you steal their stuff. Someone in their own home who has caused no loss to anyone by ingesting a plant, whether they're smoking it, whether they're eating it, makes no difference to me. Whether they're growing it, in their yard or in their home, makes no difference to me. They have not caused a loss to another person. And this is what tort crimes are all about, right? The loss of someone, somebody losing something, and the imperative to make that person whole. Isn't that really what society is about, is righting your wrongs?
We have an ordered society where we have a process in which the members of the community get together and determine what will be acceptable behavior. And
no, the members of the political community get together and decide that it's more
No,
profitable.
that's not true, because you're a member of the community that gets to vote. And that's the process.
If voting worked, we wouldn't be allowed to do it. If it made a difference, we wouldn't be allowed to do it. The fact of the matter is, I'm in a state right now, Indiana, where we will likely be the 49th or 50th state to legalize medicine.
Well,
that's it.
Let me jump in real quick on that, because I know that our current governor, I think his biggest thing,
It's a
other
sham.
than we need to do more studying, is thing. But if the federal government has not acted, this is like immigration as well. I mean, the federal government has not acted to help states out. They haven't.
The federal
said, okay,
government
states,
has
you can do
overstepped
this.
its bounds. I mean, we're talking,
But
10th Amendment.
They're our boss.
No, they're not our boss. No, they're not our boss. They have a very limited
government
function. This is the whole point of the Constitution, is that we have 50 independent operating states. The purpose of the federal Constitution is to stay very small and very limited, and anything that the federal government is not expressly given as a power reverts to each individual state. This is such a big problem because we have the FDA, the EPA, we have all these alphabet agencies that were never even an entertainment of thought by our founding fathers.
Well,
Period. End of story.
We have your favorite group.
Eliminate them all.
So you can't. The money is the biggest problem. That's what Colorado had a big problem with that. So go ahead, Jordan.
I think the biggest thing is, if we look at it from an economic standpoint, let's take the personal feelings out of it. Let's just look at it for what's best for the state's coffers. I think that we could benefit very greatly from it, either growing it. Of course, we'll have to legalize it first, but we're missing out on money and people are tired of being taxed.
Now,
so we
what
can't
you
say
just
in one breath
said,
that we're looking for alternatives, but we also want to be able to use something that at least we know. I'm sorry, Lucy, but that's a compromise. I think
you want to take my freedom and bodily autonomy.
Oh,
and
no,
sell
no,
it
you
back
can
to
have
me.
the freedom, but instead of
you
making
want
you
to
pay
tax
high
me.
property taxes, I would rather for someone who wants to smoke the joint to pay a high tax, so that way I can afford a house.
So
Lucy.
there are
I mean,
certain freedoms you agree
Think
with
about how much
because
tax benefits you would get if it
think
was legal. And we were
no, I don't
taxing
want to
that
steal from
instead of
people.
taxing
I
gas.
don't want to steal from people. I reject the
It's not
premise
stealing.
that
No,
it
it's
is
not stealing.
stealing.
You can grow it. But
Taxation
we're a
is theft.
capitalistic state. So let's look at this from a
Taxation is
financial standpoint.
no. Capitalism is the free market. Capitalism is the
taxes,
free
Lucy.
market.
Taxes are too high. Come on now.
Government monopoly is
No,
theft.
you can't have
And
both,
if you
Lucy. Which one
create
do
a
you want less
scheme,
of? Less taxes or marijuana? Which one you want? Lower taxes or marijuana? You can't have one before the other.
No, I don't have to choose. I have the natural right as a human being to eat whatever I want. God said so. I mean, Jordan,
Well,
are
the
you
good
not a
thing is,
believer? Do you
Lucy,
not
there
believe
are
the Bible
plenty
where
of
it
islands
says
popping up in the
right
Pacific
there in
Ocean right
Genesis
now. You can go
1:29?
there. You can
You're
go live
trying
there,
to
but in the
take my
U.S.,
rights
sweetie,
and sell
we
them
do
back
things
to me.
slightly a little
Why don't
bit
we
different.
tax gun
We're
owners?
gonna have to call the
Why don't we
timeout here.
Yeah,
We're
why
gonna
don't we
have to call
tax
the
gun
timeout.
owners?
We have to call timeout on that. It's gotten to a very lively discussion here about this.
And Lucy, I would have to
tried.
disagree with you on something. While we are a free people, and I would strongly agree with that. But as a social compact, we have agreed.
I didn't
that
agree
we
to
have,
your social construct. I didn't sign your
It's a
social
birthright
compact.
inheritance.
no,
It is
social
not a
compact.
birthright
Let me-
inheritance. The
let me-
accident of my birth
let
inside
Curtis,
these
let
lines.
Curtis talk. Please let him talk.
Lucy, if you don't agree with our social compact, then I don't know what to tell you if you're in the wrong place or not.
I reject your reality and substitute my own. I am free. I am a free individual, just like you are. I am not trying to take your gun rights and sell them back to you through a tax. You are not trying to, well, you are actually, Jordan, trying to posit it would be a great idea if we just tax these people who do something that we don't like. Well, pretty soon you're the person that we tax that you don't like. There's already, 200 taxes on bread? You know, they say that we don't have any sales tax on food, but the fact of the matter is it's been taxed every step of the way. Everything that we do is taxed. We literally cannot drive down the road or breathe without being taxed. Our very existence is taxed.
You know what,
we
Lucy?
are slaves. We are
Lucy?
economic slaves. And you're trying to play along and make us more of an economic slave.
Lucy,
No.
remember the part of the conversation I had about engaging with someone else and being able to listen to that person and empathize with their position. I think what you're doing now is an example of the opposite of that, because you want to make sure that your point is made and you're not interested in having a real discussion about how to get to a resolution. You just want to make sure that your side wins.
You're asking me to sit still while you measure my cuffs for the change you want to put upon me.
Hey,
No, I'm not going to sit still for that.
Quit putting words or actions into my life. I'm not asking you to do a damn thing. You can do what you want to do, but my point is you're not willing to engage in civil discourse to resolve an issue. We clearly have a difference of opinion, and the difference of opinion is probably not as stark as what you're trying to suggest, but you're hanging on to that difference, and it's important for you to get your point across, but you're really not interested in figuring out a way to get me to your point of view. You just want to make sure that I'm in a box that you can define me the way you choose to define me, and then move on. That's no way to engage in civil discourse.
I think
we're not negotiating for my freedom. You want me to sit here and listen.
Again, you're talking about I'm not negotiating for all free. I'm not negotiating for your freedom.
In your position as the Attorney General of the state in which I live, your position was one that was completely fine to lock up human beings because of an imaginary code that was created so that people could be locked up.
In my view, there's nothing imaginary about the Constitution or the Indiana law structure.
The Constitution does not give you the right to lock up people for using marijuana. The Constitution very specifically limits the federal powers and enumerates the rights of the people. You're trying to act like these Indiana codes are constitutional. No, they're not. They're bureaucratic bureaucratic codes that were created to enslave people or to incentivize certain behavior. The fact of the matter is, the reason that politicians do what they do is because they receive money to do what they do. Why don't we have free and legal marijuana in the state? It's because we have Eli Lilly, who has patents on both CBD products and Marinol, which is synthetic marijuana. And anything that stops those patents or interferes with that market that they've created for themselves means that you don't get money into your political coffers. When I ran against Evan Bayh, he had gotten over $250,000 from Eli Lilly. And of course, they fund the other side too. They funded Todd Young. I was battling $55 million and I raised like $5,000. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. People like me have to be a belligerent claimant in person, as the Supreme Court has said. I am a belligerent claimant in person. I cannot allow anyone to roughshod over my rights, and I have to claim all of my rights at all times. And every citizen that doesn't do that is doing themselves a disservice. But we have to stand up for those people. There are Black men who are in jail right now because they had some dried up plant in their pocket, and their future and their ability to feed their family.
What about the white men? Are there no white men who are in prison for the same thing?
You know what? There is an Indian woman who sold marijuana to an undercover agent who went to jail for 18 years. She's trying to feed her family and create a free market and sell a plant. I mean, I sell plants from my front yard, but I sell azaleas and I sell hibiscus. But somehow this plant,
making this about Black men,
because Black men are disproportionately affected. You know, I'm a white woman driving down the road. The chances of me being pulled over versus you is stark contrast, right? Stark contrast.
Well, Lucy, where do you live? Where do you live? Do you live in an urban environment where most
when I
Black
lived
men
in
are?
Fishers, it was true. When I lived on the near west side of Indianapolis, that was true. When I lived on the near east side of Indianapolis, that was true. Right down in Woodruff Place. When I lived in Woodruff Place, if you're driving down the road, Jordan, and I'm driving down the road, I'm getting a pass and you're not. And that's just a fact. And I'm not here to do like the white privilege, you know, sort of thing.
Unless you're going to the jails yourself, Lucy, and speaking to them, we have a repeating door offense issue, particularly here in Marion County. A lot of these people that are getting arrested and busted were probably on house arrest, was probably doing something they weren't supposed to do. Now, I'm not saying that the law is perfect. However, it is a legislative issue. You cannot put the whole weight and decision upon one man's shoulder. What about the legislation? What about the legislator? Are they involved in this process?
The legislators conspire every time they get together and they go behind closed doors.
We call that a caucus.
Now, you and I both
said
know
the same thing about ancient Rome too, but yet it was one of the greatest, empires in the world.
Well, you know, Rome is gone, and the United States is about to be gone too, because we've got CBDCs coming in July. And if you don't even know about that, then, you know, I don't even know what to help you out with.
We're coming to Lucy's house. We're going to smoke some weed and eat some free chicken.
Lucy, like, okay.
But I don't smoke weed. I don't use weed at all.
What you're saying, Lucy.
Well, you better have some.
So are we just not supposed to follow any laws?
There are natural laws, and enumerated, if you're a believer too, as I recall you're Catholic, enumerated in the 10 Commandments. You're not supposed to steal. You're not supposed to harm your neighbor. You're not supposed to covet your neighbor's wife. You're not supposed to worship other gods. Most people right now are worshiping the God of the state. And this is the problem I see with the leftists, is they think that the authority rests in government. No, the authority is in natural man. It's in the creation of God. God created marijuana. God created broccoli. To me, they are morally equal. I don't know why anybody thinks that it should be a criminal act to ingest marijuana or to ingest amanita mushrooms. I mean, I eat lion's mane mushrooms.
Lucy, some people do not have control over their faculties. They don't know
Who are you to decide what they have?
It says in intrinsic autonomy, Lucy, you should know this. In intrinsic autonomy, one person should know their own interests, but there comes a point where they continuously do heinous offenses that proves that they're not capable.
Smoking marijuana is not a heinous offense. That right there is no loss to another person.
As an American, that is a birthright. You agree when you are born here, you are naturally inherited.
I didn't agree to be born here. I was born here by luck. Why? No, I don't have to leave. I don't have to leave.
saying we're
I don't
forcing you
have
stay
to
American?
leave. I don't give
Well,
up
we're
my
forcing you
rights
then to
by
stay American.
staying right here. No, that's a total canard.
You know,
You
Lucy,
cannot
that's
say that I
oxymoronic.
should
That's like
leave and
saying
give
I
up
like
my
sugar, but
rights.
don't
All right.
give
My
me
rights
sugar.
are here.
Robert's
My
got a
rights
great
are in
idea.
Russia.
Robert
What
says,
who?
let's
Yes,
smoke
let's
some
smoke some
broccoli.
broccoli.
I
Let's,
like
let's
Lucy.
smoke
That's
some broccoli
oxymoronic. I like
and
sugar, but
call it
don't give me
evil.
sugar.
Evil.
Fine, make it underneath my clothes. You can't have it both ways. You either got your
The
inheritance
fact of
as
the
an
matter
American
All
is,
right.
birthright.
As they say
I
at
am not a
Churchill
slave
Downs,
whether I'm
as
here
they
or
say
in
at
Russia.
Churchill Downs,
My
there's like
natural
12,
rights are the same regardless of the
there's
country that I'm
12.
in. People have the same
You've
natural
lost
rights
control,
around the
John.
world.
Do you have a
I know
The
mute?
problem is that people in government do
there
not
goes Lucy's
recognize it
promise
because they're
of
looking
being
for it.
nice.
Nope.
So
I never promised to be nice, but I am going to be accurate.
that's okay. But as you know, the recent thing with Churchill Downs had 12 horses die at the spring meet. So this is going to be the 13th horse that's dead. This horse is dead. We're moving on to the next topic. And you can look that up. That's not conspiracy. There's truly that many horses that have passed away, and they're looking into it. So I don't know what they'll see, but there is some stuff going on down there at Churchill Downs, and we'll get
They
to the
got the
bottom of
COVID
it.
vaccine. I'm calling it now.
It might be. You never know. It's, you know, it's like maybe if the horse didn't win, didn't make it. So anyway, let's see what Tiffany. Do you have something else you could bring up here to change the subject? Because that one got deep. Got deep
that
there.
one,
He's like,
that one got deep. Let's see what else is going on. You know, I was just sitting here. I'm enjoying a Hi-Yo. It's an alcohol alternative with adaptogens in it. Let's see, cordyceps, ashwagandha, lion's mane, stuff like that. It's 30 calories. Have a subscription. I enjoy it. So that's
that was our moment. Okay, I'll change the subject here. So Lisa sent me a picture. My wife, Lisa, she sent me a picture about it. Remember the things about hate a little bit, and she wanted me to show the picture. So let's put it up there. There's her little picture, and that's her little bird there that she rescued from a little baby one. It's called Piggy, and it's a little sparrow. It was, you know, in our house when we were repairing it, fixing it here, and it was the one that lived, and she nursed it from a little bitty baby. But you know, Piggy has since passed on, but she made this up a couple years ago, so she wanted me to put it up there. So you know, I try to keep everybody happy in the house here. So hey, I guess the question is, I'm gonna go around the whole horn here. How do we end this hate? I know Jordan, you said love, so I'm gonna hold you to that one. Lucy, how do we end this hate?
We stop allowing government to divide us. People are
Okay.
divided along different factions because it's useful to keep us fighting each other instead of fighting the elite cabal, which is enslaving us all. And maybe we should be talking about CBDCs in a future episode because people don't know what's about to hit them. The collapse of the U.S. empire is upon us. And you don't even know that your food supply is gone. Your
I am
water supply
growing
is
my
poisoned.
garden like a crazy fool right now.
Yes,
I'm
you
like,
are. Me too.
I'm growing some food.
Plant those broccoli seeds.
I will starve before I eat broccoli. Tiffany, what? How do we stop this hate? I mean, you're up there and the Fishers fighting it out with them.
so. You know, people can say what they want to say what you need to say, and then just move on. People don't have to listen to you. People don't have to engage with you. I mean, if you're going to be rude and cruel and unkind, you shouldn't be surprised that people don't want to engage with you. So, what are you really doing? You know, we can all differ, but until we can sit down and have a logical conversation, we're not going to get anywhere. You know, we're just talking over each other. We're trying to make points. We're stroking our egos instead of really having a productive conversation. And I think that's one of the things, you know, Curtis, you said earlier that, you know, when people see brown women, they think that we're angry. And, you know, I'm a highly trained military officer. There's no anger here. I'm going to beat you up with words.
She's got the Kung Fu grip or the G.I. Joe grip. That's what it is.
And that's the thing that people don't understand is that, like, not every brown person is going to put their hands on their hip and tilt their head from side to side and argue with you. I'm the last person to argue with somebody. I mean, it's not going to get anything done, and I'm not going to feed into that stereotype. You want to have a conversation, we can sit down and have a conversation. If you can't be kind, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, I mean, and you're seeing that up there. I know you had some people come up to you and say some words and you just like talk to the hand. That's good. I'm going to go and say, we need to show more mercy to somebody who does say something that's bad about you. I mean, don't let them get away with it, but you know, not let it escalate to the next thing. And then, you know, grace, you know, mercy and grace go a long way these days. So, Curtis, I'm going to give you the last word here before we go to the conspiracy theory. And you're obviously welcome to stick around for that. You do not have to have a conspiracy, but it's what you want to do. So, how do you think we're going to end this hate?
Well, I think it all comes down to, and very much in the words that you used in terms of mercy and grace, I think it's forgiveness. We have to get to a point where instead of casting blame on someone for either what's happened to me as an individual or us as a group, we've got to recognize that people do make mistakes, people do err, and we have to engage in forgiveness. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. We have to learn to forgive our neighbors. We have to tone it down a bit. I mean, one of the most distressing things about the political discourse today is that both sides are interested in burning down the house, and it's important to recognize that to save the world, which I believe America has to be strong to save the world, and the world it's going to be needing to be saved. It can only be saved if we have a unified America. At some point, this brother and sister that I'm arguing with is coming back into my house. And we've created an environment where we're literally two separate nations. And I think it was someone coined it recently that it's not even right and left. It's like crazy and not.
I'm on the not side. I'm sorry.
And there is this idea of things just getting so crazy. It's we always say that. It's never been like this. Well, I don't know that it's been like this certainly in our lifetimes, but the level of acrimony is incredible, and something's got to give. And so I think it's incumbent upon those of us who have reason to try to work with being the ones that pass out the olive branch that engage in forgiveness. It doesn't mean you have to stand down on your principles and your beliefs, but it means you have to be willing to listen, engage, and develop a relationship with someone. It's so much easier to have a discourse with somebody that you have a friendly relationship with. Who wants to be a jerk to somebody that they like? And if you genuinely like someone, you have that opportunity. That's what was great about Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, who had vast differences in their political discourse. But they had a superior personal relationship that you don't see in Washington, D.C. anymore, because you get vilified by your own people if somebody catches you converting with the enemy.
Yeah, and a little bit about that, and I do, and I think pretty much everybody up and down the thing here. So, one last thing before I let you off the hook, I've seen a couple rumors. Lucy, mentioned it before about your political future or whatever. Are you considering running for the governor, or are you looking at that, or what's up?
I am considering a return to public service. I'm having some discussions with folks. I think it's imperative that we look at the world that we live in, particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, and some of the revelations that have occurred. That we are now really starting to awaken as to what's been really happening in this country for maybe a couple of decades now. I think we've got a severe loss of trust of our institutions, of our education system, of our justice system. We've seen weaponization of race, radicalization of sex, and just a general uneasiness about how we exist as not only a nation but as a state. So I'm considering ways in which to engage in public service in a meaningful way. And we'll hear more about that in several weeks.
In several weeks. I think government needs a timeout if we're going to use kindergarten analogy here. Government needs a timeout and a refocus. And
we need something beyond business as usual. I mean, what's been at play is not working. And it's not working horribly. And we have to push the reset button, and we have to have folks that I think are courageous enough to identify these problems and take corrective action. We don't see that in the General Assembly right now. You see good people start off with the right attitude, and then they get there, and right away they become a part of the problem. So we're going to take a good hard look at what if anything we can do to engage in that process.
All right, all right. That was spoken like a politician right there. Okay, I got you. So that's going to do it. But I want to go ahead and put our sponsor up here because I didn't put him up earlier. So I would put up here. What's that?
Who's our sponsor?
Oh, well, here you go. It's Bimbo Bakeries. If you want a job delivering bread, get a hold of Becky Morris, and that's the phone number. And you can go to work tomorrow. I mean, they need all sorts of helpers right now. They got all sorts of jobs for you.
Is it Bimbo or Bimbo?
It's Bimbo.
Okay, Bimbo.
Yeah. So yeah, you got to be careful on that one because you can. It's one of the largest bakeries in the world. I think it's.
Yay.
I know it. It's really crazy. So let me play our beautiful little conspiracy theory thing here, and we'll rearrange.
Before you do that, I have a quick question.
Okay.
You know, when we're talking about like free speech and discourse and stuff like that, and when people choose to continue to have their point made, and they're in public meetings and things happen, I think one of the things that happens, I think it's the lack of accountability in society. We don't often talk to people about the consequences of their actions. And, people, certainly you have free speech, but you can cross a line where you're being like disruptive, you're prohibiting like a meeting from going on, you're being disruptive, and those things have consequences. And I think that is very surprising to people when they realize that them exercising their constitutional rights, their limits, and when consequences are imposed on them. I just think that that's something that people need to understand, that you can certainly do whatever you want, but there are consequences.
I think we used to have a decorum and manners, and I think those have slipped away. I really think that people just think it's just like the Twitter. You can just say whatever you want, whenever you want, and nothing happens there, really. I mean, sometimes you'll get put in Facebook jail for a week or whatever. Never happened to me, but I've heard of other people that have had that.
Sure.
So,
but when those keyboard warriors come out in public, there are consequences. Just FYI,
yeah. Well, I mean, some of them have fake names. Like, I'll give you an example. There was a person named Krispy Kreme on Twitter, and I said, I've never heard of a talking donut. And that was the wrong thing to say. Apparently they took offense to it. So, it's like,
really?
Oh yeah. That's a story for a whole nother show. That one got some kind of legs, and yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Just one little comment, and a talking donut. That's what I said, and I was all sorts of names after that. I was it's all good. So I think one of our viewers knows a lot more about that story too. So anyway, Curtis, thanks for coming on, and
thank you.
I think you're going to stick around for the conspiracy, right?
Sure, I'll watch you guys put your crazy hats on.
Let's just make up things here. So here we go. You're not on the hot seat anymore. So you made it. Lucy, she gave you the business, and that makes our show go around. So here you go.
Hey, y'all, better get your tinfoil hats out. It's time for the conspiracy theory. Come on now, let's go.
Okay, let's see here. Let's put Curtis down here in the safety with me. Oh, look at this. It's the Pontiff. The Pontiff Jordan Davis is with us this evening, so that's good. All right, Lucy, since you were so fired up, you got to start tonight. You got to go. And if Bill Gates hadn't given away free marijuana on Saturday, then I don't want to hear it.
Well, I won't be ingesting any because I don't use any type of illegal drugs. And anyway, I think that puts me in a perfect position to advocate for something because I don't actually use it. So my conspiracy theory is, as always, first of all, it's Bill Gates' fault. He's buying up the farmland. He's one of the biggest private landowners. He's got almost 10,000 acres just here in Indiana. Why? Because he wants to control the food. Why does he want to control the food? Because as Henry Kissinger said, if you control energy, you can control a country. If you can control the food, you can control the people. And people do not realize, I keep trying to sound the alarm and raise the alarm. This is not even conspiracy theory. Go read Agenda 2030. Go read the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations. Go read these things that have been around since I was a child and realize that if you don't stand up right now, if you're not passionate about maintaining your individual human liberties, that they will quickly be taken from you. And if you are in the city, God forbid, then get yourself out. of the city, an acre, 2 acres, 3 acres, have some sort of retreat to go to, because when your diesel is taken away from you, when your energy is taken away from you, when the grid is shut down with an EMP, what's going to happen is that you're going to be trapped in the cities, and within 3 days, 70% of you are going to die.
Well,
is that like the purge kind of death, or is that like no water?
No, first of all, what you've got is a very fragile water and food supply. So within 3 days, now everybody's not going to literally die within 72 hours, but that will start the chain of events. Once people realize that food is not coming in, if there's no electricity, the water's not getting to them, the water is not, it's not being treated, it's not getting to their home, the water that is there is going to make them sick because it hasn't been treated. There are actually a couple of really good books, like 1 second after, 30 days after the event, whatever. There are all these kind of titles on Amazon where people that are typically prior military people like you, Tiffany, who have a really good insight to what happens when the SHTF, and they're trying to warn us and tell us that, once the food supply goes down and the rioting starts and the burning starts and the firefighters can't get to you, you guys just don't realize how close we are to having a complete societal breakdown. I mean, what happened during the pandemic with the BLM riots, man, that's like a walk in the Sunday park compared to what's coming. And most of you you're not aware. You're not preparing.
I live in Marshall, and we will survive.
You will survive. Yeah.
I mean, everybody says, hey, yeah, I'll go. So Jordan, that was very uplifting that Lucy had. I mean, I feel like ready to go do something. So what do you have, Jordan?
What do I have for us today?
I know I'm the same way. I'm like, I may not have one.
That the El Nino that we're about to experience in the Pacific is only caused by the United States government testing out the DARPA weapon. Seeing that if we do go to war over Taiwan, well, we may not hold off the Chinese army, but we surely can flood their cities, because we've seen what happens when their cities get flooded. It kills thousands of people. So I think really, if we see any huge rainstorms, anything like that, it's just DARPA up in Alaska. That's all it is.
Wow, that's a good one. That was pretty conspiratorial, I think. Maybe true. You never know. That's the thing about these things. So true. Tiffany, what's on your mind tonight?
Going back to the original topic of tonight's show about haters, and I think Jordan touched on it just a little bit. Haters don't know that they need love, and there's probably some trauma from their childhood, and they're acting out, and they just really need hugs. So haters need hugs, haters need love, and they don't know, and just dealing with trauma, they have no way to really voice what they really need. So it just comes out backwards.
Oh, we started out with Lucy and the gloom and doom, and Tiffany brought it home with the iHeart Radio type of deal there. So Curtis, do you have anything you want to throw out there as far as conspiracy?
No, I not really. I think these are interesting perspectives. I do think that there are great challenges ahead of us. I don't know that I can be as specific as Lucy in terms of where she's at, but I do believe that there's a darkness that exists that we're going to have to deal with.
I do agree with that.
And how it manifests itself. The old ways of just having faith in the United States of America isn't going to cut it anymore, because we've seen that we can't trust what's become the United States of America, because we, the people, have abdicated our responsibilities to a government that doesn't deserve it. So there has to be a reclamation of our nation at some point, and these next several years are going to be very, very telling about the survival of our nation.
I do agree. And Lucy was nodding her head, Curtis. That's a great way to end our show. My conspiracy theory is that we have a property tax rally this weekend at the thing. We will have a mouthwash table set up there. We'll have T-shirts. We'll have stickers. I got a banner. It's going to be great. It's going to be the largest demonstration that's ever seen the South State House lawn. that it's going to be so impactful that they're going to call a special session of the legislature to lower property taxes. That's my conspiracy. I'm sticking with it. See if it happens.
That in the name of Jesus.
Are you guys going to serve a meal? Is there going to be like hot dogs or anything?
Our
No,
budget
2
is
loaves of
bread
bread
and
and 3
water
fish.
without the bread or the water. So that's our budget. I'll probably have some water there if you need it. But so if you got now, Tiffany, are you coming to the thing? Are you coming down?
What time is it on Saturday?
Noon. You will be up. Are you going to go out partying all night Friday and you can't get up at noon? What's up?
No, but for my campaign, we're hosting breakfast with Tiffany on Saturday. So a chance for me to meet with voters. So
I'll do it at 9. Do it at 9 and come on down at noon.
Yeah.
Jordan's going to be there. Jordan's going to be doing the Pledge of
Is that,
Allegiance.
is that breakfast with Tiffany's or breakfast at Tiffany's?
Breakfast with. Oh, yeah. I'm not cooking. That's a conspiracy theory right there.
Yeah, there you go. That's the 2 for Curtis. He won the conspiracy theory. So, Jordan, you're going to be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. Lucy's going to be introducing Donald Rainwater. I mean, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. So, Curtis, thanks for coming on, being a good sport, and you're one of our top show people that's come on. You've always been a good sport with that, and we'll have you back on maybe after you really do an announcement or whatever, after you get off the pot, so to speak. As a pun for Lucy and for Curtis.
That was
that's
very
what I
clever.
do here. That's what I do. So anyway, this will be airing on Channel 40. I will edit this down, so a lot of this banter will be filtered out. And Curtis, no conspiracy theories ever go on Channel 40. You got to tune into this wonderful show to see this type of atmosphere. So stick around after the little show here. Let me end this thing up.
Night, Robert.
We'll where is it? There it is.
Night, Robert.
Thanks, Spiro.
Yeah.